Welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. So we've got a rock riff here, progression, that is going to be a great example of combining a couple of different approaches to an improv. And a lot of what we do on this channel is you take a chord or a progression of a couple chords, a groove, and I'll show you a scale or a mode or something that really goes with that, and that's kind of all we need for some of the lessons, right? Like, if you just use this Dorian scale with these two chords, that just sounds great. And if you get into that creatively and, bend it here and there and just explore it, you don't really run out of ideas, right? Sometimes when a progression especially has a couple more chords in it, they don't fit all exactly into one nice, neat key or mode. Then you're like, no, this scale sounds good mostly over this, but there's times where I can feel that something's missing from it. The scale doesn't really exploit the progression all the way. And when that happens, one of the things you can do, and we're just going to get started on this today, we're going to have to do probably several lessons on this, is start looking at each chord as specific notes that make up that chord and target them when you're on that chord, right? Now, that's a lot to process. You got 4 chords here, and this moves along pretty quick. And like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can go E, G, D. Don't worry, because I'm going to show you a really simplified way to start doing that, right? If you follow this program that I'm about to show you, you're gonna be able to apply this information to a bunch of other situations as well, not just this progression. So our main idea here for this progression is E minor pentatonic. Now, if you're familiar with that, you can play it down here. Play it up here. Play it anywhere else that you're familiar with. This slide right here shows this path that goes from the bottom E to all the way up to that one and takes you through several positions. So it's just a good mobility thing where it crosses through all the different shapes. To just be blowing by that. There's a whole video on this a few weeks ago called 12 fret span for E minor pentatonic or something like that. So that would be a great one to go along with this lesson. So those regular shapes for E minor pentatonic, and then that run, just stop the video for a second or whatever and just work on it. Get warmed up on that E minor pentatonic. And here's what you can do, some ideas or what it sounds like to just use those notes over this progression. Oh, let me show you the chords real quick. E, G, D, A, E, E minor pentatonic. All right. Hey, nothing wrong with that, right? You can sense right away, well, you play all day on that E minor pentatonic. So that's going to be you're going to have good results with that. And that's going to be a lot of fun, because especially if you're already familiar with some of those shapes. So, remember, the twang method is not to let me perfect everything in my mind so that I can start playing my guitar. No. Start playing your guitar immediately, right? The rest of it will follow that, okay? That's just, we won't get into a philosophy, discussion here. And eventually you just want to have balance between those things, between understanding and knowing what we're doing and just doing it, right? I don't mean to say that in a flippant way either, or to imply that this is something that you should just be able to do right away. But it's important to trust that process when you're using this method, right? And so that E minor pentatonic is going to take you far on this. That's kind of you could probably turn this video off right now and do that for a couple days and be really happy with it, and make a lot of progress. Because every chord in this progression is major, well, there's four. There's not even a key that has 4 major chords in it, right? So, right, that's kind of the evidence that this does not just sit right in a key study or modal. It's not that nice and neat, right? You gotta really get dirty with it to make that pentatonic work with everything, right? What I'm about to show you is how you can really add some melodic depth and kind of a modal feel to jamming over this progression. And the way we're going to do that, along with that pentatonic stuff, is triads for each one of the chords and occasionally dropping those in and kind of targeting those notes. Now, there's 4 chords. So if you multiply everything by 4 that I'm about to show you, it would seem like, wow, that's going to be a lot of memorization for these triads and stuff. But here's the good news. We're going to use the same 2 shapes and just move them around to be the different chords. Here's what I mean. E. Okay, here's an E. The first shape is, let's just take these 3. Okay, that's an E triad. Here's a diagram for it. The red dot is the note E. Those other 2 notes are either the 3rd or the 5th. I didn't mark them because there's your homework. You get into that. See if you can figure out which ones are the 3rd and the 5th. Make a little drawing on a piece of paper. That'll help you really learn it. But I will show you the root on each one. Okay, so that's an E. That's something we could use over the E chord. Next chord, G. Well, here's one thing that's really cool about guitar. When you move something up, it just becomes another chord or another, it's the same theory, just moved up or down in pitch, right? So if that's a 3-fret move, then this is going to be a 3-fret move. Does that make sense? Oh, sorry. I went to the next chord there, didn't I? So now if we separate the notes on that, what's that sound like? Get you a little melody going quick. Here's the top of it. Jump the gun. I went ahead and put the D and the A in there too. Now let me break that down real quick. E. If it works here, it's going to work there. And then A. Okay, now that's a lot of movement. You know, it's probably not something that's going to work out that well when you're actually jamming. It's kind of like I'm playing slide without a slide on my finger or something, right? So that's a little, but do that at first because it teaches you the nature of it, right? That's how your guitar works. Everything you do in one place will work somewhere else. It'll just become another set of notes or key or chord, right? So when you learn something like this, you're learning it for everything that you'll be able to apply this always from now on. So there's one shape that you can move around. And in a minute, I'll show you how to, more of an example of using those shapes while you're also staying on the main path of the pentatonic around it. And that's where it really gets interesting. So, in fact, let's do a little bit of that right now. I'm going to play the pentatonic stuff, and then I'm going to slip into a few of those things that we just talked about. Right? So, you know, trust the process here, right? It's a little, you know, boxy or whatever, right? But do the work on it. Now, I'm going to show you one more shape. When you start putting these together, it's exponential what's going to happen. So, but, you know, do the push-ups and sit-ups. So you got that shape. Here's the next one, E. Remember, we're just using the same progression. We're just looking for different places to play triads. Okay. Now this time the root is there on the 5th fret of the B string, right? That's the red dot. Okay. Same idea as before. The first thing we can do to get to that G, I think you're already thinking it. I'll move it up 3. Great. Now, remember our last shape? Look where my index finger is right now. Just happens to be already sitting right there for that D. Okay, so here was one option way up here for the next chord, the A. But if that's G, start putting the pieces of this puzzle together yourself, right? A. Okay. Well, check this out. Waiting for it to come around. Okay, it's kind of a mixture of chord playing and lead, right? Or soloing. You see that? That's the connection that this lesson's really about. Scales are like the linear way to approach an improvisation. Okay? Lines. The triads can be part of the lines, but they're more defined by what chord you're on, okay? You put those two things together, you got a lot of work to do, but it's very rewarding because you're adding that richness to each chord here and there. What I really like to do is really focus on the triad, on those last two chords in the progression, and the using the pentatonic scale over the E and the G. You don't have to do it that way, but I'll show you what I mean. It just seems to work out. Here we go. So, pentatonic. Okay, so that was, putting in several different shapes and things, right? So, like you noticed, I did the A shape one time like that. So, okay, this is a lot. I realize that. But once you get your mind into this, it's just a matter of spending time hunting this stuff down and looking for it. And if you look into that cage system and stuff, you know, that's all part of this, and that's really good stuff. I'm trying to kind of present it in a more simplified way because I think sometimes if you just put that giant caged thing up here, it's just mind-boggling, right? It seems to a lot of the folks that are presenting it maybe that it's real simple, but it's not. Just because of the sheer amount of stuff that you have to visually deal with some of those diagrams. So, hopefully this is kind of a stepping into that in a more reasonable way for some of you. There was a lot in this lesson. That's pretty much it for the information. So you'll have your practice loop and, spend a lot of time on this one just hunting down the triads. Use the diagrams, but also take it further than that yourself. And then just be patient with yourself and go to maybe you don't use the track all the time at first, at that tempo, right? Just work it out yourself. Now, the notes that I'm picking and the order of it right there, do not get hung up on that. That's just random. I'm not even thinking about that, right? Those aren't licks, right? So just, the important thing is that you start to really imprint these shapes and know that you can play every chord. These are all major. That's why I did it this way this time. Next time we'll mix in some minors probably. Right. So hopefully that helps because each one of these is going to work for every one of these roots, right? You don't have to switch it to a minor shape right now. And then just have some fun. The just show me the licks this week is going to be great because I'll show you some more of that. The stuff that I did in that intro that was, things that you can kind of really hang out on and some of the fun licks. But your part of this deal is to really do the work on this theory that we just talked about, okay? That's going to set you up to really be able to jam and have some fun and enjoy your guitar. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the support, and let me know how you're doing. See you next time.